Hello everybody, it is Saturday afternoon. I'm going to be doing a company party in a couple of hours, and there's hardly any prep involved in this at all. I've done it a few times before. I know where it is, I know what times I have to be there. It's a real cool group. It's a super easy event, and I'm not charging what I typically charge for a wedding reception for a party like this because of the time involved. I have little time involved in this, and I did a video about this earlier this week. And I mentioned in the video that for a wedding, sometimes I have like 40 hours of prep involved. And somebody called me out on it. They're like, hey dude, what are you doing? 40 hours of prep? That's like a full-time work week just to prepare for a wedding. You know, what could you be doing in that 40-hour period of time? So I made a list, and I did this in Word because I didn't want to type it out on Facebook to reply to this guy. And I'm glad I did, because I thought it was worth a video. Here are some of the things that I'm doing for most of my wedding receptions. Sometimes it's 40 hours, sometimes it's less, sometimes it's a little more. But here, this should give you an idea of what I'm talking about. So pre-initial client meeting, what am I doing? I'm talking on the phone, I'm doing emails, I'm texting back and forth. I'm going to say that takes about 2 hours of my time before they agree they want to go ahead and have a meeting with me. I also have to prepare for these meetings. Sometimes I need pictures, sometimes I need to put together some music lists, sometimes I got to put together some short videos just to show them what I can do based on the conversations we've had. It's about a 2-hour process. Now the meeting itself, I'm usually looking at about a 2-hour round trip, and the reason that is because most of my clients don't live in the city. I live in the city. Most of the gigs I do are in resort towns outside of the city, one direction or the other, sometimes even Chicagoland. The meeting itself, that's about an hour-and-a-half deal. So after the client meeting, we have things to talk about. I gave them some ideas. They told me kind of what they wanted, and we're kind of putting all of this together. What happens a lot of times is after they've agreed they want to go ahead and hire me, I have to go do a site inspection, which is usually another 2-hour round trip, and sometimes we're looking at an hour to an hour and a half in the inspection and meeting itself. Now after I've done the site inspection and we've thrown some more ideas back and forth, you're usually looking at about another hour of emails and texts and phone calls talking about the kind of things that they want to do. Now when it comes to music lists, this can vary. It can go anywhere from an hour or two to 5+ hours, because a lot of times when people want me to do ceremony, cocktail, dinner, and reception, they have some specifics they want to do. I had a client a while back where I downloaded 85 songs. It was a Hawaiian thing. I didn't know any of the music. I had to reach out to a Hawaiian DJ pal of mine. I had to find the stuff. I had to find the right versions of this stuff. I had to show them samples of what I found and find out if that's really what they were looking for. Sometimes it's as weird as a song that I just don't have. Maybe they heard it in a movie, maybe it's a B track, whatever. I have to download it. I have to make sure I have the right version of it. So there is some prep involved with this. Again, it's like a 1 to 5 hour deal. So we're going to average 2.5 hours on custom music. Once we have all this together, I like to put together a preliminary timeline for ceremony, cocktail, dinner, and reception. Just kind of giving us an idea of everything we've talked about in an order that might work. Now this isn't a final timeline. This is just to give them an idea of how things could flow and the order things could go in. This is something that I put together and I send out for approval. We're usually looking at about a 2-hour deal on that. Then there's the final client meeting. We take all the information that we've gathered and we try to put it together in an order that makes sense. They let me know some things they want that they didn't think about. They delete, they add, whatever. It's a 2-hour round trip drive, and it's an hour-and-a-half meeting. Once we have that meeting, I can put together a final floor plan and timeline for ceremony, cocktail, dinner, and reception, usually looking at about 2 hours on that. If I'm doing a ceremony, sometimes I'm doing a wedding rehearsal. That's a 2-hour round trip, plus an hour-and-a-half at the rehearsal itself for consulting and just kind of waiting for them to do what they need to do. So now we're at a total of 27 hours. Now it's the week of prep, and I'm just going to read off of my list of some of the things that I listed for that. Includes vendor communication, music service, and custom music organization. Backed up 3 times, which I do. I put it on 2 different laptops, plus I put it on my desktop in an order that makes sense. This is the music services that I get in the mail, this is what I download, and this is the custom stuff that they're asking for. Also, we have all the equipment prep, including reception and ceremony systems, because there are sometimes 2. We're also talking about any specialty gear we have and setup logistics, extra extension cords, wireless stuff, whatever. Wireless power prep, and lighting programming. Like if we're doing uplighting, I like to get those colors programmed and approved before I go ahead and bring them to the reception. And usually I do a static color. What exact color of magenta do you want? Is this cool? Okay, all my lights are programmed that color. There's also batteries I got to buy for wireless. I have to charge some fixtures. Last minute song, wedding, party, specialty dance, etc. timeline changes, which happen every time. Someone's not going to show. They're going to sub this person for that person. They're going to reorder the wedding party, put them in a different order. They've decided that dad doesn't want to dance for the full length of the song they chose, so they need a custom edit, but they like the second verse. They want to hear that in the intro, and then they want to come out on the B section. I got to make that edit. It's not a big deal, but I got to do it. I got to rewrite this timeline for my purposes. I have to be able to read this stuff. It's not just for their use now, it's for my use. It's like a script. I have one for ceremony, I have one for cocktail, I have one for dinner, and I have one for reception. They're all separate sheets of paper. They have different directives on there. There are times on there. There are must-play songs. There are don't-play songs. All kinds of neat stuff. I also have to get my clothes ready, and that sounds stupid, but if there's dry cleaning involved, I got to do that, or wash things, or iron things, or whatever. If I have an assistant, I have to make sure that assistant understands what time they need to be here, what they need to wear. I also have to make sure my vehicle's up to snuff. I have to make sure I'm fueled up, my oil's changed, my tire pressure's good. So that's 20 hours conservatively. It's usually 2 full 10-hour days to do this prep. It just works out that way. Anything that gets thrown my way that I have to do to get ready for this particular wedding, 2 10-hour days easily. So if you take that and the 27 hours we had before, we're at 47 hours. So if you could shave 7 hours off of that somewhere, and you could, I'm sure, you might be able to include a meeting with a site inspection or something. Maybe you have less prep for one gig than another. You're still at 40 hours. And that's before you even leave the house to go do the gig. But let's take it a step further. What are we really doing the day of the gig? So I'm just going to read off the list here. Last minute, anything with pack and load up 2 hours, drive time 2 hours round trip. Extra just in case travel time 1.5 hours, load and setup for ceremony 1 hour. Ceremony performance 1 hour. Setup, flip, cocktail, dinner, reception 1 hour. Assistant's doing most of this flip. I'm not doing it. I've got an assistant I've hired to do it, but sometimes I do have to change a few things and I have to break that ceremony system down, or somebody has to. Second setup performance time, that's between 5 and 7 hours, which we're really looking at probably an average of 6 hours for that. That's cocktail, dinner, and reception. Breaking it down and loading it all up, we're usually looking at about an hour. And then when we get home and unload it, as quickly as possible. So now we have a total time invested of, oh wow, 62.5 hours. It's 15.5 hours the day of the event. And you're only performing for, I don't know, what did we say? We're performing for, I don't know, between 6 and 8 hours, but it's still a 15.5 hour deal. You take all that, you total up, you've got 62.5 hours invested in every wedding. And again, you could shave time off of this. Let's say you could shave 20 hours off of the whole thing. You're still at 42.5 hours. You could shave 22.2 hours off the whole thing. You're still at 40 hours. So it is a full-time thing. When you accept a wedding reception, if you go through all these steps, and my clients are thorough, they want to go through these steps sometimes. It's for their peace of mind, but it's also for my peace of mind. I want to make sure they get exactly what they want. There's no question. This is what we're looking at. Those are real numbers. And again, you can shave numbers off here and there, but you're still looking at a solid 40-hour week when you do one of these things. So that's my video. I've got to take a little chill time. I'm going to load up and probably have some food, get cleaned up, and go do my easy peasy cool little company party tonight. We'll see you soon. Practice and enjoy.